Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Have you ever thought about building an app? Like, what would your dream app do?
It's a thought that crosses everyone's mind at some point, right?
Totally. And now with Swift UI, it feels like app development is more accessible than ever. So today, we're diving into this swiftbook.pdf to see what it's all about.
From what I've heard, it's supposed to be great for beginners, especially with its hands-on approach.
Exactly. It really emphasizes jumping right into mini projects, which is awesome for learning by doing. And get this, it's all designed to work seamlessly with Swift Playgrounds.
Oh, nice. So you can follow along on your iPad or Mac without needing to wrestle with Xcode just yet.
Exactly. It's all about breaking down those barriers to entry. So, Chapter 1 jumps right in, teaching you how to build your first basic Swift UI app. You'll be introduced to the backbone of it all, the content view. Think of it like the foundation of your app.
Ah, so that's where it all begins. And what kind of things can you customize right off the bat?
Well, you'll learn how to tweak the look and feel with colors, images, and even incorporate those sleek system images from Apple. You know, those icons that give apps that polished professional touch.
Right, those system images are super handy. It's not just about aesthetics either, is it?
Definitely not. Using them ensures consistency across all Apple devices and plays a key role in accessibility.
And speaking of accessibility, I'm curious about how this book tackles interactivity. That's a big part of making apps usable for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where Chapter 2 comes in. Get ready to dive into the world of buttons, functions, and user input. We even get to build a HIG app.
HIG. Now, there's a word you don't hear every day.
It's all about that cozy content feeling, like curling up with a good book on a rainy day. And this app we're building is like a journal to capture those moments of joy and gratitude.
Sounds lovely. But how does that tie into app development?
Well, it's all about introducing those core concepts in an engaging way. Like, this app uses a random prompt function to inspire those HIG moments you're supposed to jot down.
Functions. The building blocks of any good app. I always like to think of them as little recipes that perform specific tasks.
I love that analogy. And of course, no app is complete without user input. So Chapter 2 also dives into text fields. You know those boxes where you type in text?
Right, like when you're logging in or sending a message.
Exactly. You'll learn how to grab that information and potentially do something cool with it. Maybe even use it to personalize those HIG prompts.
Now you're talking. That's what makes apps feel dynamic and engaging. And text fields are just one way to capture user input, right?
Oh, yeah. This book just scratches the surface. Think about voice commands, image uploads, even using your location. There are tons of possibilities.
The possibilities are pretty much endless these days. So we've got our content, we're getting user input, but something's missing.
You're talking about buttons, right?
Buttons, the unsung heroes of the app world. They might seem simple, but they're how users actually interact with all the cool things we're building.
So true. And Chapter 2 shows you how to connect those buttons to functions, making things happen with a single tap.
It's like magic, but with code. You tap a button, and boom, your app springs to life.
Exactly. But hold on to your hats, because Chapter 3 is where things get a little more mathematical.
Oh, math. Now you've piqued my interest. What kind of math are we talking about here?
Well, we'll be building a conversion app, so get ready to brush up on your operators and calculations.
A conversion app. That sounds surprisingly practical. I'm guessing we're going to see how even basic math plays a crucial role in app development.
You got it. And you might be surprised to learn that even a seemingly obscure operator like modulus can be a lifesaver in certain situations.
Modulus.
Yeah.
You mean that thing I haven't thought about since high school algebra?
The one and only. You'd be surprised how handy it is for tasks like converting a 24-hour clock to a 12-hour format.
Really? That's fascinating. I would have never thought of that. You're right, math is sneaking up everywhere in app development.
It's all about finding those remainders, right? Like, say you're building an app to display photos in a grid. Modulus could help you figure out when to start a new row.
Exactly. It's one of those things that might seem kind of niche at first, but once you see how it works, you start to realize how useful it can be.
Totally. Okay, so we've tackled Modulus. Who knew it could be so cool? But the math fun doesn't stop there. This book even introduces some more advanced function stuff that might bring back memories of high school math class.
Oh no, don't tell me we're going full-on trigonometry here.
Don't worry, it's not that intense. But we do get to see how Swift makes working with more complex math a breeze, thanks to the Foundation Library.
Ah, the Foundation Library, every Swift developer's best friend.
Right. It's like having a massive toolbox full of pre-built functions and solutions.
Saves you from having to reinvent the wheel every time you want to do something.
Exactly. And Chapter 3 isn't just about calculations. It also shows you how to make your apps more interactive with elements like sliders.
Sliders. Those are great for when you need the user to input a value within a certain range.
Way more intuitive than typing in a number, right?
Right.
Like adjusting the volume or brightness on your phone.
Exactly. It just feels more natural. And speaking of making things feel more natural, Chapter 4 is where things get really interesting. Get ready for shapes and animations.
Now we're talking. Who doesn't love a good animation?
They add so much life and personality to an app. Even something simple can make a big difference.
For sure. And Chapter 4 has this fun example, the balloons animation. Imagine a bunch of colorful balloons, each bouncing around the screen with its own little personality.
It's a perfect example of how even a simple animation can create a more engaging and delightful user experience.
And it's a stepping stone to creating more complex animations down the road.
Yeah.
That bouncing balloon could be a game character or a cool loading indicator.
The sky's the limit.
And to top it off, Chapter 4 ends with a fun challenge. Build a virtual pet. You know, the kind you have to feed, play with, and keep happy.
Now that's a challenge I can get behind. It's the perfect way to apply everything you've learned so far.
Exactly. And speaking of cool things to explore, part 2 of this book is like stumbling upon a treasure chest of coding gems. It's the Swift UI Cookbook.
Ah, the Swift UI Cookbook. Every time I open it up, I discover something new.
It's like a collection of bite-sized solutions for common programming tasks. Need to implement a specific feature, but don't want to start from scratch. The cookbook probably has you covered.
It's a huge time saver, especially when you're working on a tight deadline.
Totally. And just to give you a taste of what's inside, we've got snippets for everything from a binary calculator.
For those moments when you want to embrace your inner computer geek.
Exactly. To a BMI calculator, which could be super useful for a health and fitness app. And for those who like things a bit more visual, there's a card flick snippet.
Ooh, a card flip. That could be used for so many things, like a language learning app where you flip the card to reveal the translation.
Or a memory game. Or even just a fun way to reveal information in a presentation or quiz app.
It's amazing how such a simple concept can be so versatile.
Right. This cookbook is full of those kinds of gems, practical examples that can instantly level up your app development. It really makes you realize building an app isn't some crazy impossible feat.
It's like anything else, right? With the right tools and guidance, it's totally achievable.
Exactly. And Swift UI really lowers the barrier to entry. So let's recap what we've learned in this deep dive into the world of Swift UI. We started with the very basics, building our first app from the ground up.
We covered those essential building blocks like content view and how to customize the look and feel of our apps with colors, images, and even those cool system icons.
Oh, and we can't forget those aha moments along the way. Like how a simple operator like Modulus can be surprisingly useful, or how the Foundation library is a goldmine of pre-built solutions.
It's like having a secret weapon for app development.
Totally. And with that Swift UI cookbook at our disposal, we've got a head start on tackling all sorts of exciting challenges.
It's almost like cheating, but in a good way.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners out there, what are you waiting for? It's time to fire up Swift Playgrounds and start building those app dreams.
And who knows, maybe the next big thing we see on the App Store will be created by one of you.
That's what we love to hear. Until next time, keep diving deep, and we'll see you in the next episode.